welcome to another episode of Anything But Ordinary with Spooky and Raven. Tonight is Paranormal Talk. Our callers tonight are Greg and Holly. They're going to share some experiences with us and tell us what happened to make them go from non-believers to believers. My name is Spooky, and here is your other most awesome host, Raven.
Hey, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good.
I'm totally looking forward to tonight. I mean, we got little tidbits from both of them when we kind of talked with them a little bit, but they have had some amazing encounters with, when it comes to the...
Oh yeah, well, I'm looking forward to their stories tonight.
Right, and actually, I don't even know if we'll be able to get, both of them to be able to finish everything, because each of them are going to do like 1 hour, so, we might even have to invite them back again,
Yeah, we just might have to. Our first caller, I think that after listening to some of his stories, I think we need to have him back on other shows.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a very interesting person, so...
Well, I think he'd be helpful on a few other shows that we have planned. And while I'm on the subject, tonight's first caller is Greg. How you doing, Greg?
Greg, you can unmute and come on the show.
Unmute your Skype on other shows.
Hi, are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm still learning the technology of this thing. I've got something going in the background.
Oh yeah, you have to mute the browser at the site. If you just hit stop on the video that's playing at the site, it should work.
Okay.
Did you get
Hang
it
on.
done?
That's no problem. We're all new to
Absolutely no
certain
problem.
stuff, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm still learning the technology of this thing. All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you plainly.
Okay, finally.
Well, it's kind of, first time, it's you got so much stuff to remember. It's kind of hard to remember everything. It really is. It was hard for me. I used to leave my sound on all the time. We'd get an echo.
Right. Well, they're saying that I'm kind of low, so I don't know why. I have my things all set up to high, so it's one of those weird things, I guess. So
my understanding, Greg, is you used to be a police officer.
Yeah, I was a police officer among many other jobs that I had. I got into it late when I was 35. I went through the academy, and I was a police officer about 7 years. And
so you were used to working, because you used to be, if I remember right, you used to be a non-believer, right?
Oh, extremely, yeah. Yeah, I kind of laughed and scoffed about people who believed in ghosts and whatnot, and I was never afraid of them when I was a kid, or it gave them much thought.
Because you were used to working with facts.
Yeah, facts, figures, everything tangible you could put in as evidence or in a report. You never put speculation or something you couldn't prove. So, yeah, it was quite something when the events happened to me when they happened.
Well, you wanna tell us what? I'm sorry. What'd you start to say, Raven?
I was going to say, I know that you wanted to kind of say something in the beginning you kind of told us what you kind of wanted to say in the beginning before you kind of told your whole story to kind of, give people a better understanding of...
Sure.
Of everything.
Yeah. First of all, I know that as skeptical as I was, anybody who's listening, please understand that I understand how you feel because I was there. And everything I say tonight is the truth. Unfortunately, I can't prove it with video or audio, but I have no reason to make this up. And it was just a shock to me, as maybe it is to some of you guys that have yet to experience something. But yeah, I grew up as a kid pretty much in church with my parents, and then we had a family emergency, almost killed my mother, that pretty much turned my father against God, and he let us go on our own devices as far as believing in anything. So, of course, as a kid, rather than get dressed up for Sunday school, I was out playing with my buddies that didn't go to church. So it wasn't until high school that I tried finding different religions and whatnot, and finally just came to Christ on my own. And he and I talk a lot, and I don't belong to any organized religion, but I met a gal towards the middle of my police career that we worked at the same place during the summer. It was a boarding school in Arizona. She was the head of transportation, and she was also a master graphoanalyst that analyzed handwriting for a living, and could pick 132 human traits out of it, and weight it with certain measurable strokes and whatnot. The the depth of the character that was written and stuff. And she did a report on me. She liked what she saw. We started dating. And we ended up getting married. Well, after we ended up getting married, she was about 20 years older than I was. I know about 15, but she looked 20 years younger than what she was. When we were together, we decided to start a business, a handwriting analysis business on the side, and I became certified as a graphoanalyst, and our business senses were very different. Everything with her, from where she grew up in the northern states, was with a handshake and a promise. And being from Phoenix and being a police officer, seeing frauds all the time, I told her, I said, look, you know, you have to have a contract. And there was the rub. The rub was that was the contention between us. But she was the master graphoanalyst. She knew it better than I did, and I couldn't do it without her. And she needed somebody to help her with doing the mundane stuff that I would bring to her, that we would pick out of the handwriting. And we were doing compatibility analysis and examining the minutes of a meeting, where somebody would claim at the end there was 2 extra handwritten clauses in the meetings when the business was breaking up, giving one partner all the heavy equipment, which would turn into millions of dollars. And so we would take this handwriting and analyze it to show that whoever penned the first 16 points in this meeting did not pen the last 2. So it came up for scrutiny. Well, anyway, we went along swimmingly, and then she confided in me that she was a channeler. She was getting ready to go to a church one night, and I said, where are you going? She says, well, I'm going to a church. You want to go with me? And I said, on a Wednesday? And she goes, well, it's not a conventional church. And I said, well, what is it? I said, it's not Satan, is it? And she goes, no, I'm a channeler, and we have a special church here in town that we all get together, and we give each other readings and talk about being a channeler and some of the challenges we face. And so I kind of looked at her with a jaded eye, like, what did I get myself into? And
not to interrupt you, but did you know at the time what a channeler was?
She explained it to me.
Okay.
She explained. And, there was a time when we were together that she was saying, you don't feel good, you have a stomach ache on your left side. And I said, yeah. I said, how did you know that? And she says, well, I can see it in your aura. And she would actually
like, okay, I'm sure the thoughts in your head were like, whoa.
Well, and she would actually place hands on me, and I don't know how to explain it, whether it was suggestive, but it didn't hurt anymore after a while, and she took it as, normal. She says, I've been doing this with my kids ever since they were born. I said, okay. I said, well, what else can you do? And she says, well, I came into it because of the spiritual aspect when I was a kid. And I said, well, what happened as a kid? And she says, well, from the time I was about 6 years old to 11, I was raped by our next door neighbor in this northern state that we lived in. And he was my father's.
Anyway, we're back. Anything but ordinary with Spooky and Raven. But I'm Raven. Here's Spooky. Sorry about the little mishap. Hopefully we got the sounds fixed or whatever. But we do have our guest with us again. His name's Greg, and we're just going to kind of go back to, you were saying that you had stomach pains, Greg, and then she mentioned that she had tuned into you having these pains.
Right. Yeah. She could actually see them in my aura. And can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, she actually saw them in my aura, and then she would rub her hands together real quick to get friction going and put hands on me. And I swear it would it would make the pain go away every time. And
now, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say, slowly but surely, she started, adding credibility to what she was telling me. Because remember, I delved in nothing but tangible evidence.
Right.
And when she laid hands on and I got better, that was tangible to me.
Okay. When she invited you to this church, did you go?
No, I didn't. I didn't because I didn't have full faith in her yet. I didn't want to. Remember, I was still in the police department. I didn't want to be known as to going to some kind of a church that I didn't know anything about. Even her son Barry would not go. And so she would come back, and I'd say, "Well, what did you learn today?" And she says, "Oh, we talked to different things. I saw somebody who had the start of a real serious illness, and she was going to get it checked out by an MD, and blah blah blah." And then she said there was one channeler that told me about my past lives and whatnot. I said, oh, really? So you can see past lives? She says, sometimes it'll come in, it'll pop in, but sometimes it won't. She says, I have not seen yours. And I said, okay. So then anyway, I said, well, when does the chief show up? Is he here with us now? And she says, he's always around. I don't ever call him. I can talk to him, and then he'll talk to me telepathy, but he's never shown himself to me, and only as when I was a kid. And I said, okay. So as our lives went on, we got more and more heated about the business, the handwriting business. And we were good in the marriage romantically, but we were like water and oil when it came to business. And sometimes the arguments spilled into nighttime. And so we were laying in bed, we were just getting ready to go to sleep, and we had a heck of an argument. And I remember the light on the next to the bed came on, and by itself. And it had one of those touch bases where you just touch it and it'll come on.
Right. I have one of those. I love mine.
Well, yeah, but this came on by itself, and so I thought, okay, so a miller or a moth landed on it. So I just went ahead and unplugged it. Well, it came on again.
Oh my!
And this was during our arguments, and I looked at my wife and I said, "Did you just see that?" And she goes, "Yeah." And so I said, "Why did it come on?" Then it would go off, and then it would come on again. And I said, "Well, I'll just fix his wagon." So I unscrewed it. And when I did, I was looking for a place to put it, and I got out of bed and I was going to go across into the dresser, and it came on in my hand.
Oh.
And it didn't have the same kind of heat, but I wasn't touching the base of the light bulb. I was just touching the glass, and I looked at her and I said, "Did you see this?" She goes, "Yeah, you're making the chief mad. He's getting your attention." And so I opened up the door in the closet and I put it in the closet, and every now and then you could see the little glow underneath the door of the closet.
So it stayed on the whole time it was in the closet?
No, it didn't. It would come on and off.
Oh,
and so I said, well, I'll fix him. So I just took it out and I broke it in the trash. And I came back to bed, and she says, you made the chief mad, because now we were talking normally. And she says, this is what he does. He diffuses the anger. He'll do something tangibly to show you that he's here to stop you from attacking me.
Wow,
there was many things like that made me drawers in the kitchen, especially the silverware drawer, because you could hear it rattling around real easy.
Yeah.
It would open and close real hard. We had a split level luxury apartment that we had. We had 2 master bedrooms on either side of the apartment, a big living room in the middle, and the kitchen off that. And I would grab my 45, and naked as a blue jay, I'd walk through the apartment with my flashlight, clearing it, because I swear to God, somebody was in the apartment. And there was nobody there. And all the doors were locked. The windows were all Arcadia doors, except in the kitchen. And those were all locked and blocked in the track with a broomstick.
Wow.
Did you ever come face to face with this chief?
Yes, I did. We did a few cases in the handwriting analysis that we got stiffed on because we didn't have a contract, and it finally came to a head one night. The night previous to the main one I'm going to tell you about, we were sitting there. We had an oblong couch, a modular couch. I was sitting on one end, she was sitting on the other. I just finished my coffee. It was probably 8 o'clock at night, and she had a big, huge, round wooden table on my side with a doily on it. I put the coffee cup in the middle of the doily. I turned my back to the cup, and I was talking to her, and all of a sudden I heard something skitter across the wood table and then land on the floor, and I saw it, and my cup spun about once and stopped. And I looked at the table, and I looked at the floor where the cup was, and I looked back at her, and she had this smug look on her face.
Huh.
And she says, you really pissed him off this time. And I said, Chief, look, I stood up. I said, Chief, look, if you want to play these games, materialize and show me who you are. Let's have a conversation about this. And of course, he never did. But what did he do? He stopped our argument.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see. So
stopped
every
the
time
argument.
that you guys would get into a disagreement of sorts, some activity would pick up, and then it would basically end then after something would
Right.
occur. Wow,
He got
that's
he
interesting.
got your attention away from the argument.
Wow.
Exactly. Well, the one big thing that happened that would forever change me was we had another huge argument, and she was finishing up a plate of pie. I remember that. She went to the kitchen, And I was standing in the middle of the floor, my hands on my hips, and I said, look, I'm just going to go ahead and make a contract, and we're going to have these people, put half down because we've gotten stiff too many times and we've wasted a lot of our time, blah, blah, blah. And she kept eating her pie, and she getting more and more mad. And then as she was finishing up this bite, she slung this 9-inch plate at me and hit me in the shoulder collarbone area, and it bounced onto the floor towards the Arcadia door to our patio. And I looked at her and I said, darling, I said, I've put people in jail for that. Why did you do that? And she says, you're not going to tell me how to do my blah, blah, blah. And anyway, I go to turn around and pick up this plate, and I look through the Arcadia door because it was, I think it was just beginning of fall, and it was about, I don't know, 68 degrees out, so we had the air coming through the Arcadia door to the patio. Well, standing there on the other side of the screen was what looked like a little old lady with a shawl, and the first thought I had was, it's Golda Meir from Israel. And she was about 4'8", maybe 5 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And she was standing there holding the shawl around her head looking at me, and she had the saddest eyes in the world. I remember that. And I walked up to the Arcadia door. I was probably less than 2 feet from her. And I looked into her eyes, and I could still see the wetness around her eyes. And she had some age to her. And I said, ma'am, can I help you? How did you get on our back patio? And she just stood there looking at me. She didn't move. She just stood there looking at me. And I remember feeling so sad, like this whole sadness of the world on my shoulders. And I looked at her, I said, I looked back at my wife, and I said, do you see this woman here? And she, with a straight face, she looked past me, and she says, no, there's nobody there. And I said, I'm sitting here less than 2 feet looking at her. And she says, well, it's Chief. He's shape-shifted or something to get your attention, but I've never seen him do a full-body apparition before. And so I said, ma'am, how did you get on my patio? There's no way you can get on this patio. It's covered with pyracantha bush. There was a
now,
little
what
knee
is that?
Yeah, for those of the people who don't know, yeah.
Well, this was in Arizona. Pyracantha is a plant that grows from the ground up. It's like a vine, and it's got huge thorns on it, and it creates a little red berry that tastes like apple-flavored sawdust. It doesn't get any bigger than, say, your little fingernail. But the claim to fame is that birds will sit there and eat them, and they'll get drunk because there's some kind of anyway, our whole back patio was covered with that. And there's no way a cat could have got on our patio.
Let alone this older woman.
Correct. And she would not answer me, but I felt like she was trying to tell me something with her eyes, like, this is so sad what you're doing. Why are you doing this? It's so sad. And I felt small, like, your dad catching you stealing something or something. But I slid the door open so I could talk to her directly, and as I slid the door open, she was gone. As the door went past her, it was like she just evaporated.
And there was dematerialized right in front of your eyes.
Yes, she did.
But the thing is, she was already. You didn't see her. She was already there on the deck when you saw her. She didn't. You
didn't see her. You didn't see her materialize. You didn't see her walk up or anything like this. You just happened to look out and see this woman standing there.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, because I actually turned around to get the plate off the ground. Off the floor, the carpet.
Right.
Yeah.
When I bent down to pick it up, I just happened to look through the screen, and there she was. And it didn't scare me, but I'm thinking, how in the hell did this woman get on there? And does she need help? And that's when I realized there's no way anybody could get on that patio. And I didn't see anybody leave the living room to go out on the patio.
And apparently your wife at the time did not see this woman standing there.
No.
Out of curiosity, though, there's a few people asking why, and if you can kind of say it in a roundabout way, I know you don't want to say too much, but they're just kind of wondering why she called her spirit guide Chief.
Well, because he materialized to her with a full headdress. I'll give you the state she was in. It was South Dakota. And when she ran into the Badlands, which is like the surface of the moon where she was at,
yeah,
she would hide there and not want to be found by her babysitter, the rapist. And then that's when he materialized for her. The first couple times he materialized, but spoke with her through telepathy. And she said from the breastbone up, he had the look of a chief. He had the old the bone breastplate,
right.
And he had a full headdress, and he never talked, never moved his lips or anything, but his eyes would meet hers, and then that's when he would communicate with her. So she just started calling him the chief because, that's
What
who
she
That's the
rec-
way
that's how,
that's the way he appeared to her.
Correct.
Correct,
So
yeah.
that's how he got the name. Now, when this lady was on outside your back door or whatever, can you still remember in detail everything, like what she was dressed in, or?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's one of those moments that's just kind of seared in your head, like.
Well, the one thing that got me, that made her look like Golda Meir to me, was this big bulbous nose. She had a big bulbous nose, almost as if some of the pictures you might see of the old Russian gulags when they had, these poor people who were literally slaves,
Right.
and any kind of rag they could put around their heads and whatnot. That's what she reminded me of. But her face, her eyes, and just the way she wore the shawl reminded me exactly of Golda Meir.
Now you said that she was sad looking.
Oh yeah, she had these big puppy dog eyes that you know how some people's eyes are horizontal, some curl up at the edges a little bit. This lady had eyes that the outside corners actually went down, and like she was constantly in a crying or a mourning state.
I'm going to ask a personal question, but
Sure.
how? Not too personal. But how long after this incident was it that you and your ex split up?
Oh, probably, I would say a month.
So
then,
maybe that's why she looked so sad, because she knew it was coming.
yeah, and after a month, my wife did leave for another apartment. She didn't know whether she wanted to go back to the Dakotas, and because that's where her family was. But when I moved out, she contacted me about 3 weeks later, because we still worked at the same place.
Yeah.
And it was an international boarding school at the time. And she came to me and she apologized, saying that everything that broke us up was her fault. And I downplayed. I said, no, we both contributed to this. And she wanted to give it another shot. And I said, well, are you going to bring the chief with you? She goes, no, we're going to move to a different place. So I'm going to hopefully leave the chief at the old place. I don't know if he's going to follow me or not. He has followed me for almost 40 years. So if I have to, I'll do a cleansing. And I said, well, what's a cleansing? And she kind of briefly told me about it. And I said, well, okay, if he's gone, he's gone. If he's not, then we can do a cleansing. Well, he wasn't quite gone. He did a couple more things when we moved into another high-rise condo. And no matter how hard we tried, the business sense was just too ingrained. And we ended up finally splitting for good and divorcing about 6-7 months later.
See, the one thing that I kind of find interesting, and I'm not sure, but was there any activity other than just when you guys were having disagreements? Was there activity besides those moments?
To me?
Yeah, you noticed in your home.
When you were with her, did it only occur when you guys were having arguments or disagreements, when emotions were running higher, or did it ever happen on relaxed moments where you would see moments of the chief showing himself then or doing things then? Did it only occur when you guys were having high emotions at the time?
Well, for the most part it was high emotions, but whenever we would start an argument, it would be very civil, because we were both headstrong. And I remember the one time, it was like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and we were watching television, and we were having this discussion about taking on a case for this person. And I said, once again, we have to get a contract. And then all of a sudden, she made a bunch of macrame dream catchers that she had on the wall. And it was wintertime then, and there was no doors open, no windows open. And all of a sudden, the hanging tails, I call them, off the dream catcher were of real fluffy yarn, and they all blew, just like a gust of wind came by and blew them, and then they just hung straight again. And it caught both of our attention, and I said, did you see this? She goes, yeah, I saw that. And she goes, I wonder why maybe he's trying to head us off early or something. I don't know. Because we both realized when we started arguing, it was unfortunate, because we were good otherwise. It's just that business, I should have got out of the business and just let her do it, but
it just caused a little tension, and it can happen. It happens.
Yeah, when couples work together, usually quite a bit of
But the
attention.
thing what I was curious about, because I know, I mean, I'm not saying this is what it is for your incident, but I know that there's people when their emotions are running high, sometimes they can self-project things and cause certain energy or bursts and make things move in the house that might not always have been the chief. It could have been her anger, and because she is gifted, she may have, you know, not had know that she had the ability, and she could have been smashing things or moving things herself. You know, it's something that kind of came to
You know,
my
if she
mind.
was a channeler, she obviously put out a lot of energy, but
I wonder if she may have had some of the, she may have been, you know, contributing to maybe some of the things of happening, not just you seeing the chief, but some of the items moving around in the house as well, you know, because she was...
You know, I never thought of that. You mean something similar like a poltergeist?
yeah.
sort of like that, but it's not so much manifesting, I don't even know what those entities are really, because there's really there's so many description, but it's her bursting her energy, and it just, you know, her anger is going out at other objects as well as you, and it may have, you know, she could have done it on her own, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You know, I asked her one time towards the end of the marriage, I said if she had ever dabbled in demonics, you know, like doing any kind of ghost hunting or anything like,
or something like that.
yeah, because I had seen something on television about it. Because remember, this was back in, '89. So it was a while ago, and I don't even think there was any paranormal shows out by then. I don't know. But
that was also a time too when people thought that paranormal and demonic worship was basically the same thing, which, by the way, for our listeners, it's not.
Right. And she said no, she never had any thoughts of you know, the dark side, or even trying to contact somebody from the dark side. Never worked with a Ouija board or anything like that. So it was just her and her chief. And then when we finally got into that condo, that new high-rise condo, she had a bunch of her channelers come over and do the cleansing with the sage and the I don't know if she used salt or not, but she asked me to leave the apartment, and I did. And then she says, give us about an hour and a half, and so we did. And the chief never showed up again. We had arguments after that that kind of led to the divorce, but you know, there was never any more involvement from the chief that I saw.
You didn't see anything outside the apartment? I know a person one time that cleansed their house to get rid of a spirit, and the thing of it was, the spirit was outside then. It wasn't in the house anymore, but it would show up outside.
Correct. So, yeah, because see, when we both worked, I was working as a police officer. I started out as a reserve, then went full paid, and then when I was a reserve, I would work 2 other jobs beside that. And so I was always busy, and she and I never really, she was kind of a homebody. She loved being home, redecorating this, that, and the other thing, but she never was too social of a person with large groups of people. And so we never went anywhere really outside our apartment, because she made it so comfortable that you didn't want to go out. And so everything that happened inside our home, never when we were in a car going from point A to point B.
I have a question though. Sorry, Spooky, just real quick before I lose my thought. But, you know, after, because like you said, you went from a non-believer to sort of starting believer and whatever. Have you ever had any other paranormal or odd experiences besides just your encounters with the chief and your ex-wife's abilities and stuff? Have you ever had any other different experiences now that you've kind of, the door was open to you?
Yeah. Becky and I's son Alex died in 2007. He was just shy of 20 years old. And yeah, and when it was a long disease, and when he passed, it must have been a week, I guess, a week after he had passed, and I got this strange phone call from a woman in Florida, and she says, "You don't know me from Adam," and she says, "I know you're on the Ghost Hunters website because I got your phone call from your profile, and I was told by your son Alex to let you know that he is fine." And I said, where did you say you're calling from? And she said, Florida. And I said, and how did you get my number again? So she told me. And then I said, you sure this isn't a prank? I said, it's not a very cool prank. And she says, no, 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 no. She says, I am a medium that receives messages from beyond, and I was contacted by him. I don't know you from Adam, but he wanted me to give you a message, and because of his age, I felt you needed to know that he is in a better place and whatnot. And I said, well, what was, I said, I'm confused here. What was he dressed like? You know, did you see him? Did you hear him? She goes, he was at the end of a cement culvert, a long cement culvert, and at the end, he was on his motorcycle, and he was revving his engine, and she said he had this big smile on his face and said, tell mom and dad that everything is fine. I couldn't be in a better place. I'm free of all pain, and don't worry about me. And I said, okay. Well, I knew what he wore when he went bike riding. Mm-hmm. Now she hit on the bike, and I said, what kind of bike was it? Was it a like a 305 Honda Kawasaki? And she says, no, it was like a small dirt bike, which it was.
Right.
And I said, what colors was it? And she says, well, on the side there was a place where they usually put a number, when they're racing, but it was all white. And the rest of the bike was a red and white mixed, which is exactly what it was. And I said, what was he wearing? And she says he had a pair of black motocross boots on with buckles on, silver buckles on the outside, and he had leathers on. And I said, what color were the leather shoulders? Was there any color at all? She goes, it was blue, which it was, because he loved the flag colors, red, white, and blue. And so I said, and what color was his helmet? And she says he had no helmet on because he hated wearing helmets. And so everything she told me was true, and I said...
It was just lining up, and you were just kind of like almost dumbfounded that it was occurring.
Yeah.
It seems, yeah.
Well, especially with this woman calling him out of the blue, out of nowhere from Florida, of all places.
Well, yeah, and there was other
times. Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Didn't you say that at this time you were living in California?
Oh yeah, see. I moved from Arizona. It's really strange because when I got divorced, my girlfriend from high school, Becky, is now my wife. And all through high school we were together, and everybody assumed we were going to get married, and through a tragedy of errors, we didn't. And 27 years later, we linked back up. And it was actually my 28-year-old son that
brought you guys.
That brought us together because, anyway, anybody who knows me, knows who I am now. But the story's been out there for quite a while, and it's kind of amazing. But he called me out of the clear blue during my divorce and said, hey, I just found out that you're my father. And I knew who it was when he first asked if I was who I was, because he sounded just like me. And he had the same laugh, and I knew one day I would either meet him at the end of a handshake or a shotgun. And wow. And it was a handshake. And I moved from Phoenix once I reconnected with my well, now she's my wife, but then she was my old girlfriend, who had also been in a bad marriage, and she was now footloose and fancy free, and everything fell into place. Reconnected with him, got a position in the security police department out here at the university. I flew out for the interview. They hired me, and I moved. And so now we started as a family. But he was married, and he left. But our son, who was sick with cystic fibrosis, right. I came into the family when he was 12, and so I bonded with him as a father.
Very quickly, correct.
When he was 19, then a couple days shy of his 20th birthday is when he passed. Right. But he had a lung transplant. Everything seemed fine, but he pretty much lived his life. But then my wife, who'd never had any experience other than when she was a kid, suddenly he started coming to her in her dreams.
Oh, so he was coming to her in his dreams, trying to let her know that everything was okay, as well as you having a medium call you guys up out of the blue.
Yeah,
from nowhere. You wouldn't even know, because there's no way for her to even know this or know you guys from any way, because it's not like you were advertising it everywhere, right? So.
And I look back and I remember telling Diane Zeman, about this when we first connected, and I kicked myself in the butt because of the fact that I never asked for her name. I was so dumbfounded with this information, and I kept thanking her for the message and everything. She says, "Well, if he contacts me again, I will dang sure call you and let you know." I said, "Hey, thanks a lot." And then when I hung up, I said, I never got her name or her number.
Oh, you didn't have caller ID?
No,
Oh,
no.
bummer.
And
That's
so,
just one
yeah,
of those weird things. It'd even be trippier if she wasn't even someone living. You know, she was all, you know, because there's people who've gotten paranormal phone calls from the dead as well. I've run into a couple of people where they kept getting phone calls after their loved one had passed, and it was coming up from no number or no nothing, but they would leave voicemails, and it was their voice. So it's
well, there's another couple things that would happen in the house that when he was alive and with us, he loved this cologne Axe. He had Axe deodorant, Axe body wash, Axe cologne, and he would constantly wear it. And then once we finally got to the point where we could clean his room out, and all his cousins wanted pieces of his belongings to take with him.
right.
We had him cremated, and he's here in the house with us now. But his illness was cystic fibrosis, which affects your pancreas, your stomach, your digestion, the whole thing.
Yep. It's,
And the medication he was on would
Yeah.
cause him to have flatulation that would stop a clock. And that's being kind.
yes.
And all of a sudden, you'd be walking through the house, and you'd walk through a cloud of it, and it was him. And
saying I'm here, right?
yeah, and then Becky would say every morning he'd wake up and come into her room when I wasn't in the picture, and he would come in and nibble on her ear and say, "Good morning, Mama," and give her a kiss. Well, that happened a few times with her too.
Wow.
And there was one other thing I want to mention about something that happened, and it's continuing to happen to me. I just remembered it. I wear a gold band, wedding band, and there's been more times that I've woken up and been minus my band, and I'm looking. I said, "Whoa, where did it go? Where did I put it?" And I couldn't find it. Where on my dresser, where I take my watch off, my other rings and my necklaces and stuff, I take it, I put it right there. And we'd find it in the track of the Arcadia door in the bedroom.
Wow.
And it was like 10 feet away. And
Right.
it was like somebody would take you could see on my ring finger where the mark is in the skin because it bites into the skin. You'd actually have to take it off with some force, and then somebody threw it. Must have, because it ended up over there. And just the other day, I was downstairs watching TV and something on a phone, and I fell asleep in the chair, and I got up to go to the kitchen, and I was getting a glass of water, so I came back, and right there on the recliner, and right in the middle of the seat was my ring, just sitting there. And I looked at my hand, and it was gone. And I picked up the ring.
And you didn't feel this coming off your finger?
No, absolutely not. And I don't fidget with it. So I looked at Becky and I said, "Do you see this?" And I was holding my ring up and I said, "Did you see where it was at?" And she was on her iPad across the room. She goes, "No." I said, "It was in the middle of this chair, on the seat." Well, I laugh about having a guardian angel that messes with you. Every time you drop a pencil, your eyeglasses, a coin, it goes under your chair.
Yeah.
Everything. It's like, why? It goes beyond the odds of 50-50. But this, when I got up, was sitting right in the middle of that chair, on the cushion. And it's a rocker recliner, so if I'd have moved it, it would have slid off. And it was like somebody just placed it there to let me know. And I don't know who it was.
Somebody is trying to let you know that they're around you.
Well, and you know what? It happened when Alex was still alive. And what I attributed it to was I've been married a few times, and I had a wife who was killed in a car accident. It must have been 1990, I think. No. About 1981 or 82. And we divorced, and it was a real bad divorce. She was foreign and threatened to kill me.
Wow.
It was something. But then she remarried. She was going to go back to her home country, but then she stayed, and she was in an engineering position at a manufacturing plant where we're at. And she met a guy there, another American, married him, had 2 daughters. And one day I was driving past where she worked. It was a main thoroughfare, and I saw her pulling out of the parking lot, and we both met at the next light. And I rolled my window down, and I waved, and she rolled her window down, and I said, "Hi, how you doing?" She says, "Fine." She says, "I have 2 daughters now." And I said, "Oh, good, I'm glad." I said, "You never went back to your home?" She goes, "No, I stayed." I said, "Okay, well, have a great life." And then I never saw her again. And then one day, a friend of mine wrote to me and said, "Here's your ex-wife's obituary." And her and her husband were involved in a car accident apparently, and he died right away, and then she died soon after. But I don't know whether it was her ghost coming back, because the breakup was because I had another girl on the side, and it was a bad breakup, and that's why she threatened to kill me. And so just knowing how she was after that, she was never really a positive person, and I got to thinking, maybe it's her tearing this ring off and throwing it across the room. Maybe it's her spirit.
I think it's very, very strange that it's your wedding ring. Have you tried the next time that it comes off and you find it somewhere, when you pick it up, try saying, "Don't do this anymore. I know you're here, and I don't want you to do this anymore." Maybe you could give that a try. Maybe it'll stop.
Yeah, I told my wife the other day, the next time it happens, I'm going to grab my EVP recorder and the I can never remember what that little
Ghost box or something.
No, not the ghost box. The other one that measures electric.
Oh, the EMF.
EMF meter.
That one with the light and.
The electromagnetic field.
Yeah, the EMF thing.
I can never remember.
When you were experiencing these different things with the different people, did you ever have like scratches, marks, bruises on you, or anything that just showed up out of nowhere that you couldn't explain for? Not that you can recall. Maybe.
No, not that I can recall. Because see, when I was, I've always been involved in police or security work, and
so you always come home with something, maybe.
I know. I find it interesting that he's gone from a non-believer to the owner of an EVP recorder, EMF detector.
Oh, and the little matrix light and the ghost box and the whole thing. Yeah. The only thing I haven't got is the spectrum analyzer and then the
thermal thing.
The thermal canyon. Yeah. But right where I'm at, there's not a whole lot of groups to join, and if we move back to Arizona, I'll definitely link up with one out there. But no, there's, the more I researched into things and read books and watched these programs coming on, I especially like the Dead Files. We were discussing that the other day.
Yes,
with Amy and Steve. I really like that. The one with Ryan Buell and the other guy, Chip Coffey.
Paranormal State.
Yeah, Paranormal State. I don't know. There was a couple other ones that were on. There's one on there that it comes from the South. I can't remember what it was. But to me, my personal opinion, it doesn't lead a lot of credence to what the people that are out there trying to debunk, rather than look for something to show, hey, this is it.
Some of those shows sensationalize things.
Some. And
some do.
Try not to, but they're kind of forced.
I know they try not to, but of course the producers and the owners of the stations and stuff, they're in it for the ratings. But there are some good shows out there. One show that I watch is on Destination America. It's called Mountain Monsters. I just love that. It's a bunch of hillbillies into cryptozoology.
And stuff. I have a question though, Greg. When all these things started to occur and whatever, did you ever kind of look back and think, okay, maybe I did have experiences when I was younger and you just didn't recognize them as that? And also, now that you've had all these experiences, and I'm sure it's probably brought you other people into your life that you probably would have never met, because we all kind of, like me and Spooky met you before in somebody else's website and a chat where we all kind of came together, and some of us all went off one direction. We all became friends and share paranormal experiences, whatever. But I'm just kind of curious, because it sounds like there's a lot that seems to be occurring right after the moment that you had met that one lady. But I know that there was this job that you were talking in private with us before about, that you've said that you've even experienced things that seemed to be otherworldly, even in that one job, as far as some of the patients and stuff being there having, you thinking that they may have
Yeah,
possessions and stuff. So I find the things that you've talked about, I find extremely interesting, and I wish we had like hours to have you on, but.
See, now I do want to say one thing real quick, what you just touched on. Um, the police are there to protect and serve, to apprehend and arrest. If you try and do anything else, you can get slapped down by your department because it's not your area of expertise. You didn't learn it in the academy, so it doesn't exist for you. Right. So I became a hostage negotiator because I went through all the classes I could as a police officer and detective, and I would rather talk somebody out of their crisis rather than send in the SWAT and have them blown away. Right. So I was extremely sensitive when I came out to California and worked as a manager in security. I rose through the ranks to the manager of security at this major university hospital medical center, and we had a lot of patients with mental crisis. I mean, serious mental crisis that the local police would bring in, and to a lot of them, the young cops would come in. The guys were just crazy, and they wouldn't hesitate to beat them down if they got out of line. They didn't know how to talk to them. They weren't comfortable with him because if the guy's crazy, I don't want to rub it off on me. I don't have time for this. But I would try and communicate with these people because, as a psychiatrist told me, he says, anybody who comes in with a mental crisis, imagine 1,000 people in your ear telling you how worthless you are. Right. Some of them are telling you to kill somebody or kill yourself. Right. He says, why would they listen to you? So unless you're calm and you look like somebody they can approach and tell that they're in distress, that isn't a cop. When a cop picks you up in the street, he cuffs and he stuffs you. He may be cordial, but not what they need. So they bring him to the hospital in the neuropsych center. We admit him. I don't admit him, but the doctors would admit him, and then we would watch him until they got cleared to go over to the psych center. And then we would escort him over, and then if they caused a problem over there, we'd come over and take care of it. But as I was telling you the other day, some of the ones I've seen in their eyes, they're not there. It made the hair stand up on my back. Yeah, I do have a lot of hair on my back, of my neck, my arms, everywhere.
Sorry, you made me laugh. So.
Everywhere except my head, and so I would sit there and say, there is something to this guy that is unearthly. You just get this feeling that this guy, if he had a chance, would kill you. Right. And so I kept telling my guys, watch this guy, don't converse with him. When the psychiatrists come over, talk to him if you can about your concerns, and then let me approach a doctor about the spirituality of it. Because when you're in the medical field, you don't want to address somebody coming to you and saying, you know what, your medicine's not working, your psychiatry and your therapy and your drugs aren't working, so how about we bring in the clergy? They don't want to hear that.
Right. No, because they're scientists.
It's also
they look
a
at it like
as greed
yeah,
and stuff.
That's
correct.
True. For one thing, it's the money. For another thing, they are scientists. Mm-hmm. They deal in facts, and even though they may be religious themselves, this is not the field that they're in. They're in I don't know how to put this. They're thinking pills. They're thinking psychotherapy. They're thinking electrotherapy. And all these other things, because they are scientists, they're supposed to be healers.
Well, they're also told, and I know this from some places, they're also told that you need to keep so many beds filled at all times.
Right. Period. So that comes down to that comes down to the dollar. But when you approach one and say, look, this person needs a clergy, doesn't need pills, doesn't need to talk to a psychiatrist, they need clergy. They don't want to hear that because that is not part of their curriculum or treatment. Right,
exactly. And I always used to get to friendly discussions with some of the doctors that I became friends with, and I would say, I said that's why they call it practicing medicine, because it's not a finite science. There are certain things that you can sit there and say, okay, now this molecule with this molecule with this molecule equals this, and the medicines that I apply to this, and this will work. But they can't explain sometimes near-death experience. They can't explain why people come out of coma. So you're always practicing medicine, and I always reminded them of that. Just like ordained ministers, priests, the clergy practice their religion, and so why not encompass that when it's necessary. I don't know. There's no other answer with some of these people, except what they do is they shuffle them from one place to the next, and they usually end up, the bad ones, usually end up in a state hospital, a facility run in a little corner of the facility for the mentally insane. And they get treatments, they placate them with all kinds of medications and whatnot, because that's what'll keep them from hurting themselves and others. But I used to ask the docs, what do you think makes them want to hurt somebody or themselves? Is there something inside them that's driving it? Just like that one girl I was telling you about that had different voices and whatnot.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I found very interesting. The fact is, like, I think these people know that there's something otherworldly and that what they're doing is not going to be able to cure her. I mean, the fact that you're saying that she'd be screaming practically 24/7, have multiple voices coming out at her mouth at one time, and, to me, everything that you explained made me think of that might be actually someone who's possessed.
Well, and
Right.
that's what I was thinking too, and that's when I approached the director of the neuropsych facility one-on-one in a private conference room, and I asked him, I said, Doc, every time we go in to hold her down, to get her strapped, to readjust the restraints, and she was there for 2 or 3 months before they found her a bed. At times she'd be okay, and she would mingle with the girls, and then all of a sudden she would go off, she would attack somebody, and bam, back in seclusion. And I said that she doesn't respond to the medication, but don't you find it strange that the human vocal cords can do what she does for 24/7 without being hoarse?
I can't do it. I can't yell for 5-10 minutes and
I know
I'm hoarse.
I'm done after a football game.
Well, it's like a
Yeah,
It's like
there
a
you go.
marathon that never ends from what you were describing, from the things that she was doing and screaming, and it sounds like she probably never even slept. And the part that I found fascinating was like when you guys had held her down to try to help protect her, as well as you guys. She was asking you guys. She turned to you one time and just, with that stare that you said, and said, "Help me." It's like she'd have bouts of there she was, and then all of a sudden
She was
gone
battling.
again.
Yeah, it was like
you
she
said
was.
she was a spiritual.
Yeah,
I
it's
forgot
like
how
she
I
was
think
battling
you
what
said-
was ever inside of her, and every once in a while she would win enough that the real her would come out.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. And she would scream and yell, and then all of a sudden just turn and look and say, "Touch me," in a very, very suggestive voice. And I got to thinking, is this young girl trying to trap somebody into a
Yeah.
lawsuit
Yeah.
or something? And then she'd roll her eyes, and then she would go back into her screaming, and then come out of it and just say, "Help me," and then she was there. And
Call
I'd
her
look.
mom or do stuff. Yeah, I remember there was like little bursts of where it seemed like it was her, you said, and then she was gone again.
Oh,
So
there's
she
a time.
obviously knew what was going on inside of her. She obviously knew there was something else in there besides her.
Well, do you ever remember when you were a kid going into the gymnasium during like a pep rally, and the kids would bang their feet on the bleachers?
Yeah.
Remember the rumble?
Mm-hmm.
You could hear it from outside the gym, and then when you walked in, it was almost deafening when they would bang their feet on the bleachers and do their cheers. Well, when we would come into the neuropsych center, we had to go through 3 or 4 corridors. You could hear that rumbling coming from her room because she was trying to get off that bed, and the bed was somewhat nailed down. It was a steel bed with a couple different kinds of mattresses on it, and then the corners were padded, the edges were padded, and then the leather restraints, the padded restraints. And when we would get there, she would be literally vibrating up and down on this bed, trying to tear every one of her limbs out of those restraints, and she had a belly band on too.
Wow.
And it was like, I don't know, like a truck going over an overpass. That's what the
Yeah.
noise was like. But
That's some strength and some feat to do a lot of the things that she was doing that you were saying for, 24/7 practically. I couldn't even. I hope.
And
at
not
some
losing
point
her
she
voice.
I hope at one point she eventually won, or got free of this, because I couldn't imagine living 60, 70, 80 years in that condition. It'd be maddening.
yeah,
to say the least.
it would be. And they found her dressed like a goth, walking down the middle of the road in a city just near me that the medical center served. And the police picked her up, and then she did the same thing. She was going ballistic in the back seat of the car, kicking the cage and screaming. And the guy said, "You know what? It sounded like her voice broke a couple times, like she was 2 different people." And of course, the officer didn't want to believe it because he was still an active officer and he wasn't about to put that in his report.
Right.
Yeah.
So I started looking for that, and then that's when I heard what sounded like cracking voices, and then there was more than three that I heard one time when she was yelling for help. And I remember I asked her one time. I said, "Who are you? Are you needing help because someone is hurting you?" And that's when she says, "You need to help me. You need to," and then all of a sudden she went into it again. It was almost like something was fighting my questions. And that's when I went to the head of the psychiatric department. I said, "You know what? Just knowing what I know about the paranormal, I said, have you ever considered clergy coming in to see if there's something they can do?" And then he kind of froze up and he says, "Greg, we never talk about that." I said, "That's why I have you here in this room alone," because he and I were pretty good friends. And I said, "If you want me to never mention it again, I won't." But I said, "What about her parents?" And he says, "They don't want anything to do with her." And so she became a ward of the state.
Right.
Hmm.
That's just. It's
That is
sad,
so
'cause
sad, yeah.
You're like the one that was something inside you felt like it was driving you to say, you know what, something, I should speak up or say something.
Well, there was a few. Yeah, there was a few of us that, when I was off shift, because I was the manager, I wouldn't go on all those calls. But when they would say send everybody, then there would be 8 of us on a shift, and we'd all go over there. But some of my night crew, when they would go there, I had one officer that was especially attached to her, and he actually, a couple of the nurses called and said he's trying to go in to talk to her by himself, out of uniform, to be her friend, and we can't have that. That's inappropriate. I said, "Oh, very." So I got him in my office and I chastised him. I said, "We can't do that. We have to remain above board. So don't go doing that again." And he goes, "Yeah, but she needs help." And I said, "I understand that, but there's only so much we can do."
Right, you have to go by certain rules and regulations and everything else. But
Well, the medical protocol, because I could just imagine some nurse getting a hold of something where we were trying to spiritually correct her, and it would come out wrong to where we were trying to spiritually take advantage of it.
or
And
assault or something, something else would come about of it, I'm sure. So.
sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know the hour went by really quick or whatever, but I mean, would you ever be interested in coming on our show again at another later date and, sharing other experiences that you've had or into conversations with us again? Because
Oh, of course.
there's so much that we've heard from just talking to you before the show. It's almost like
I know an hour
we
is
could have
just
gave
not
him
enough
2
to
hours
get into it.
and
Yeah.
still wouldn't have scratched the surface. I mean, he's an extremely fascinating person who has a plethora of so many topics that we were just like, just bantering back and forth with him. So.
I know we would leave him talking. We would just get silent, not say anything. He probably thought a few times we weren't even there anymore because it
Well,
was just so interesting listening.
I love to share, and my my wife used to say that I was the George Plimpton of the job world because I've tried so many different careers, and I always gravitated back towards anything to do with public speaking or conveying information, teaching. Even when I was in the military, I became an instructor in armor and tanks, and it was something I enjoyed doing, and I enjoyed doing it to death, almost to an extreme. Where if my wife can bear that out, when I communicate, I over communicate because I say, just like they say in carpentry, you measure twice and cut once.
Yeah.
When I give a message out, I give them everything they need to know up front so they can refer back to my written text to find their questions answered. Instead of people talking in code or 3 or 4 word replies. I can't stand that because it always leaves you wondering what do they mean. So
I know, and I
yeah.
give those sometimes, but I absolutely want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to you, and I'm sure that our listeners did too.
Right.
Well, thank you, ladies, and I enjoyed it. It was my pleasure on this side, and I'd love to do it again.
Okay.
We'd love to have you back.
Well, stick around for Holly's thing, but we're going to go into a quick intermission. So for those of you who want to stretch, go get something to eat or drink or whatever. We'll be back in about 3 minutes, and our next caller, Holly, will be sharing her paranormal experiences with us as well as some crazy photos. So we'll be back in 3. Welcome back to Anything But Ordinary. I'm your host, Raven, and here's your other awesome host, Spooky.
That's right. I am awesome.
Right. So, I
want to, before we get started on the second half, I do want to thank Greg for coming on. I thought it was a great interview, and I thought they were great stories.
I was just going to say the exact same thing. You stole my thoughts. But I would like to have him on again with, because he just has a lot to tell, and it's really hard to get it all out in 1 hour or whatever. But,
I know it is. It's just not enough time.
Right. Our next guest is Holly, and she, some of the things that she was saying to us, I was just like, oh my gosh. I don't even know if I could live where she lives,
I don't know if I can either. So. Are you there, Holly?
Yep, I'm right here.
Hey.
Oh, good.
You hear me fine?
I want to welcome you to the show and thank you for calling in for us tonight.
Yeah.
Today.
Sharing some of your photos, yeah.
Yeah, and we do have photos to share.
Thank you for having me. This is my first time on the radio.
Well, don't be nervous. It's just a conversation with me, you, and Raven. Don't worry about chat. I'll read chat.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing is we'll kind of, start off, you just kind of start off talking about maybe when you were younger or whatever. I mean, were you always a believer or were you a non-believer and then something occurred that made you become a believer?
I've always been surrounded by it, and when I was younger, I always had, my imaginary friends that weren't so imaginary, so I never really thought about whether I was a believer or not. It was
so
just
this
like
is
automatic.
So this is something that basically you've been around just about all your life.
Yeah.
So you've constantly experienced seeing things, hearing things, or, what?
Yeah, seeing, hearing, feeling. I would say sensing. It's not one of the 5 senses, but maybe a 6th.
Almost all of them. So.
Yeah, almost.
Well, the interesting thing is I met you through a mutual friend of ours, and he was your boyfriend at the time or whatever, and he was living there, and he would come on the Skype. We'd have like group Skype calls or whatever with a couple of other friends that are in chat here or whatever, and we would actually hear voices coming over the Skype call, and sometimes he would have like the video chat on, and you'd actually see things going on in the background behind him, and that's in the house that you're in now, and he was explaining some of the experiences that he was having, and then when we got to talking to you, you have a plethora of, I don't even know, some insane things that are happening. You go from saying that things moving in your house to people talking to, things appearing,
You want to tell us some of the things that go on there?
There's lots of different things. There's, stuff fly across the room. We've had cupboard doors open and close. I've had TVs turn on and off. A lot of people hear voices. They also hear footsteps on the ceiling, or they just sense there's something wrong or somebody's watching them.
Well, the thing is you, not just you, but also the mutual person that had lived there that we know of, he had mentioned a lot about how the basement constantly creeped him out. But I guess you're saying he's not the only one, as well as your friends who come to your place that have experienced things in your basement.
Yes, I've had friends that have gone down there and they had kids, and the kids asked, well, who are those two people over there? And there's nobody over there in the basement. And we're like, well, what do they look like? And they're like, well, it's an old woman and an old man. They keep looking at us. And, my friend just took her kids away and said, we're going to be doing something else now.
Now, does anybody else live there besides you?
Yes, my parents live here.
Do they ever report seeing or hearing anything in there?
Well, my mom has reported hearing the footsteps on the ceiling, and she's heard people call her name when nobody was home. My dad, on the other hand, just refuses to acknowledge there's anything here, even though he's seen it himself, because I've seen him seen it. Because
Yeah.
there was a time where he was standing by the fridge, and I was walking towards him through the family room, and all of a sudden a can of Febreze flew from the kitchen island over to the kitchen sink and right in front of us. And I'm like, don't you dare tell me you did not see that. He's like, I didn't see anything. And he just walked on to the next room.
He's probably one of those people that just, my eyes are playing tricks on me, or no, I didn't see
If
that.
he just denies it, maybe it'll stop.
If it denies it, it'll go away. You told a very interesting story about
the
something.
antiques. Well, I want to about the antiques because you have antiques that are in that basement.
Yes, I
where
do.
a lot of activity occurs.
Yes, I have antiques from both sides of the family down there. I have a fainting couch, an armoire, and I have a very old vanity that has a matching dresser, but the dresser's upstairs.
And
Is this the part in the basement where this activity takes place, is around these antiques?
Yeah, mostly, yes.
Because we did a show one time on attachments, so I'm just kind of wondering now if whatever people are seeing in that basement, and you said that they were from your family, if maybe some of their energy or whatever is attached to these antiques.
I laugh because they call it a fainting couch because I'm like, every time you see the ghost, you're just like, oh, great, a fainting couch is right here. Ta-da.
Yeah, isn't
That's
that
what it's
convenient?
called. I did not name it. That's what it's called.
But
I
these
know, but
items
it's
are
just,
like,
some people call them loungers because they're like long couches.
right. But
Yeah.
these items are well over like 1800s
Yes.
time period or whatever. But the thing is that you mentioned is because of these activities and things, you'd put cameras throughout the house, also down in the basement. And,
Yes.
But when you put it in the basement, you said every single time you'll start to see like orbs or something, and
Yes.
then the camera just quits working.
Yes. I'll see a few orbs, and you'll maybe get a few seconds of video before the camera cuts out, and then the network refuses to see it after that. And it's only in the basement. We tried switching the cameras out. It doesn't matter.
Right. Now you also said that you guys can't have crosses in this house.
Yes. Some of my really close friends know that you cannot have crosses in this house because they are mutilated, destroyed. My friend has a cross tattoo, and when she was here once, someone scratched her right directly across the cross on her back, where she has the tattoo.
Now you said you've actually.
I find that troubling.
Yeah,
I
me
mean, when
too.
you can't have a cross in your house, and the cross, and because whatever it is not afraid to touch those crosses.
But
No.
you actually went and put crosses down, because even this guy that we're talking about, that I'm not going to mention his name because we didn't ask to use his name or whatever, but he had went and tried to buy a cross as well and was putting it down on those antiques and stuff, and he said that the thing would just disappear or fly off,
Yes. Yeah, it does. It doesn't like the crosses. I've had a rosary that was on that vanity, and it would spin and spin and spin and spin. Then we put the vanity down in the basement, and I tried putting the rosary back down there, and when I came down the next day, the cross was ripped right off the rosary.
Bent. and
So
things,
does this thing with the crosses, is this anywhere in your house where you have them?
Yeah,
It's not just in the basement; it's upstairs.
No, it's
too,
anywhere in
right?
the house. Yeah, it's anywhere in the house.
Now you also said that you've gotten into like TV wars with unknown things in your
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, well, at night, before I go to bed, I like to watch a little TV sometimes. And I turned on the TV and I was watching a show, and then, I'm going to bed, I'll turn it off. A couple seconds later, it turns back on again. I'm like, okay, whatever, turn it off again. Then it turns back on. And I'm like, okay, I'm hiding the remote because maybe that's a glitchy remote. Nope, I hid the remote, still turned back on again. I'm like, I just yell out in the air and I say, geez, just let me sleep. I want to sleep.
Now, you said you also only have like the TV, the DVD, and only the space heater all plugged on like that power strip, and you checked
Yes.
the power strip, but you also said that the power strip button, the little clicker back and forth, you would hear it click on and
Yes.
off as well.
Yeah, it would turn it off because I'll be just sitting there, whatever. The TV's on, the DVD player is always on, and then I have the space heater on because it's cold.
Right.
And all of a sudden, just view, you hear it click and just all powers down. Everything's turned off, and you have to physically push that button. It's really hard to push, and it just all goes off, and I'll go over there and I'll turn it back on again. But it just every once in a while it does that.
Right.
I always think it's a cat, but there's no cats in the room, so I can't blame it on them.
Right. I don't know why some people can hear me, other people can't hear me. I don't know if it's their volume or whatever, but I'll try to talk a little bit louder into the thing. One of the odd things I know that you and this guy that used to live there would mention and stuff is that you guys would always you'd hear voices, or you'd
Yes.
see like orbs, or you'd hear people like walking in the attic as well as up on the roof.
Have you ever seen an apparition, though? I mean, besides these kids who mentioned this old woman and old man in the basement looking at them, have you seen anything?
I have seen stuff in the backyard. I have seen things in the windows, but the things in the windows are not apparitions. That's something totally different.
We'll get to
Well,
that.
we'll get to that because
That's going to take up the whole chunk of the end of the show because that's just freaky. And
Yeah,
we have
that is.
photos
That's
to
just
go
freaky.
with that kind of
But
stuff.
I'm talking about apparitions in the house. Have you seen any besides stuff flying by?
You see stuff in like the corner of your eye a lot. Like you can't see it directly. Like you just see it in the corner of your eye, and it'll just flash by, and you'll turn to look and not see anything.
Right.
But you feel like there's something there, and you just keep seeing it in the corner of your eye.
Now,
oh yeah, absolutely.
You had mentioned also there was a time that you were sitting outside and you had saw something go into the neighbor's land.
Oh, that would be the guy who said went in the neighbor's land. But if you're talking about little
cornfield, yeah.
Oh, the cornfield. That's Little Boy Blue. That's what I call him because it seriously looked like a little kid, except I could see through him and it was a bright blue light, like that he emanated, and he walked from the middle of the patch of land we have behind our house, and then he just walked straight in the cornfield and disappeared.
Right in front of you.
Yes.
And he gave off like an eerie bluish color, but he was see-through, but you could see like his shirt, and you knew he was like a boy of a certain age, like 8, 9, or 10 or something like that.
Yeah, like 8 or 9.
Do you have an EMF detector?
No.
Okay, because Greg asked if you had established a base of EMF readings, but if you don't have one, then no, you didn't, right?
No.
Also, see, the funny thing is when you saw that boy or whatever, I asked you, well, did you go investigate it or whatever, and you just sat down and said, no, I didn't see it, or what.
I don't go investigate it. I leave them alone. That's what I do. I try to leave them alone.
It seems like it's constant in the area. And another thing that I find extremely fascinating is that you don't have large animals on your property at all.
No.
And you have an apple orchard.
Yes. I know. I find that so strange. She said that they had this big apple orchard, but yet there are no deer on that property. An apple orchard is a magnet for deer.
Especially in the winter, that they chew on the bark.
Yeah, especially in the winter. Or, even in the fall when, some of the apples fall on the ground, they'll come along and eat them. She has no deer on that property. You have, what? You even said you didn't have any squirrels on that property.
Nope, no squirrels. I was asking my friends, and one of them said they saw a chipmunk once in my yard.
An ancient monk?
No, a
A
chipmunk.
chipmunk.
Oh, one
A
chipmunk.
One chipmunk in the yard.
Talk louder.
It was an old chipmunk.
I'm
Been
sorry,
there
I'm
for
trying to
a while.
yell at my microphone.
An ancient monk chipmunk. It's got. I'm
Yes.
picturing this thing having a robe. I'm thinking you're talking about a monk, and she's talking about a chipmunk.
This chipmunk is in deep prayer right now.
Roaming the apple orchard.
Yes, we don't have any deer, but all our neighbors have deer, and some of them have apple trees, and they complain that there's too many deer eating the apples in the yard, but we don't have a single one.
Yeah,
And we have so many apple trees.
That's what I find very bizarre, but it also goes with all the insane things that happen on this property as well. And, as that mutual friend that we have, that guy that used to live there, he had taken these photos because he was so panicked and scared of the things that he kept seeing and hearing, as well as you were seeing, and he had actually captured some things. But there's one photo, but I'm not going to share it tonight. I'm waiting for it because at some point he's going to come on the show, and I'm going to save that photo for it. But there was a creature that showed up in your garage window showing itself, and it looked like a freaking alien entity, didn't it, Spooky?
Yeah, it did. How long have you lived in this house?
Um,
She'll say
The-
too long. No.
As
well,
long as that old chipmunk?
Monk chipmunk, yes.
I've lived here since 2002, but there's 5 years in there where I didn't live here.
So,
All the time that she's been there, there's been activity.
Yes.
yeah, well, that was my next question. Has there been activity since you have lived there?
Yes.
You said that your mom has seen something. Has she ever sat down and talked to you? Have you guys had a conversation about the things that you're seeing in this place?
We've had a very, very short conversation about the footsteps on the ceiling.
So she's obviously been hearing them for a while.
Yeah, she said she swears that she thought it was my dad, but my dad was not home. And at the time when I was talking to her, I'm like, there is no access to our attic. How is he up in the attic?
Right. And the thing is, it's not just people experiencing this, and your friends and people who come over as well, but it's your cats in the house are interacting with things that are occurring in your house as well.
Yes, I have one cat. I have a video on my Facebook of one of the cats that's just sitting there in front of the camera watching the orbs as they pass by. And then I have another cat who likes to stare up into the skylights and growl and meow at me, and even tries to crawl into the skylight to try to get this creature.
That's always peering in your sky. Because you have a creature that comes on the roof of your house and peers in the
Yes.
skylights, as well as peeking in windows and staring at you guys. And this
Yes.
happens, I think you said, once or twice a month? Maybe
Yes.
more, you don't know. You've only seen it. You
What-
always catch
what
it
does-
a
I
couple
don't
times a
really
month.
write it down, so.
What? What? You're not keeping track of this thing?
I will.
No, I'm not.
sorry.
I'm lazy, I'm sorry.
Can you describe it to us?
Yeah.
I swear it looks like a mangy dog. Or there's a picture online that I saw of a shaved bear. It looks very, very similar to the shaved bear, except a little bit thinner face, like a dog, and it has a stripe that goes straight down its face where its nose is, and it also has glowing eyes that go from a yellowish, orangish red color.
Right.
Wow.
Now, one time you said you were in the living room, and
Yes.
this thing was peering in through the living room window, but
Yes.
you're 5'7", and only the top of your head comes to about where the window would be. So you'd really have to stand on your tippy toes just to barely get your eyeballs to peek in this window. And
Yes.
this mangy dog, which, I mean, we kind of looked at photos, we were kind of looking at the Bray Road photos of, werewolf things, as well as that shaved bear, and you said that it looks like those two things as
Yes,
well.
it really
looks like
does.
that werewolf thing. Now this thing has to be 7 to 8 feet tall to be able to have its head peering into your living
Well-
room window.
Well, not only that, if it's getting up on her roof,
Which is
And
no way
you
to
you don't
access
hear
that.
you don't hear this thing climbing up to the roof. It's got to be jumping up there.
Yes, when we were talking earlier, we figured it probably went on the railing of the porch and then jumped up there, because that's the only way I can think of how you get up there, because the tree that is nearest the house really isn't that close. Like, I wouldn't be able to jump it. Even my cats wouldn't be able to jump it if they jumped from the tree to get on the roof. And there's no ladder to go up there either.
That's amazing. This thing is getting up on the roof of your home. You're not hearing it. So whatever it is, it's
Well,
stealthy.
we are hearing it. We hear the footsteps, but
Well,
we
But
don't
that's
hear
my
it get
next
up
we're
there.
seeing
question.
it as
Once
well
it's on
in
the
the.
roof, do you hear it walking on the roof
Yes.
before you see it in the skylight? What do you do when you hear this thing? You don't run to the skylight and say, I wonder if it's up there again, do you?
No, I don't like looking at that thing. I looked at it once and I'll never look at it again.
See, she saw it
Thank you.
in. She said that she had saw it in the living room, and she sat down and she was looking at it. But you said that you had this thought come to you that said, "Stop staring at this thing," and you said that it had eyes that just penetrated and created fear instantly in your soul, right?
Yes, it's when I first looked at it, I just it was like a quick glance, and I thought it was my cat at first because she has that same stripe down her face.
One big cat.
Well, that was just my instant thought in my head. So I went to go walk over to the window, and then I looked and I glared right at it. And now I've seen many, scary, spooky things. I go to horror movies all the time. I've seen things that are worse. What it looked like isn't what scared me. It's just its eyes. It seemed like it glared into my soul and just struck fear into it. And it was the most intense fear I've ever felt in my entire life. I can't even describe it even more than that. I was so
Yeah,
scared. An instant adrenaline rush. I just had to sit down. I'm like, I am not going to freaking look at that thing anymore. Something just told me, just go away, leave it alone.
Yes, quit engaging.
Exactly.
The fear
Exactly.
engaging. And I had that experience one time when I was up north too, as well. And the thing that was outside the window at nighttime, it had like orangish yellow eyes. And when I looked up and I saw it, I had that instant fear into me, and something in my head said, "Stop looking at it and move away from the window now and leave this room." And I did. But I'm not afraid of anything. And I know that feeling, what you're talking about. It's just, it's not like you were scared. It's just like something triggered that mechanism in you and said, you need to flee this or stop staring at this thing. Just get away from it, But
Yeah.
the thing is, you live in an area, and there's several states. We've done a show on this before, okay? But the way that you're describing this to be a mangy dog that's 7 to 8 feet tall, and it's going to go with these photos that we're going to share with you guys pretty soon here. But in that area, there's several states like Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, and a couple other places. And me and Spooky did a show that was on the Beast of Javaden and then the Beast of Bray Road and other areas. But I guess there's a lot of people in these different states, and one of them being your states, where they're seeing bipedal wolf creatures constantly. And it's not just one or two people. And these are people like lawyers, doctors, and everything else. And they've been seeing them since, the 30s and 40s, all the way back, right?
I have a quick question.
Right.
If I may. Do you do anything to protect yourself, Holly? Greg wants to know if you use anything to protect yourself against the
negative spirits.
negative spirits. I can't pronounce this word. It's not up there.
Benevolence.
There you go.
I meditate. I do light cleansing, which I don't really know how to describe that one, but it's basically where you feel yourself with the bright white or yellow light and just kind of emanate it outwards from your body. I do that. I've also blessed the house and cleansed the house with sage and with holy oil.
Yep.
Not holy water, but holy oil.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've done all that already with the house.
See, the thing is your cat's seeing this creature.
Yes.
That male that we speak of, our friend, he's seen it. You've seen it, like, right up in your face where it's staring through the living room window, which we'll be able to see the window in one of these photos here. But the guy that used to live there, he went out to go smoke or whatever, and he was, we told him, well, go take pictures while you're out there, because to be honest with you, I am totally curious, and I told Holly, I'm like, I'd totally go to your house and run outside if that thing was
I
on
know
the
every time we talked to him, I was always telling him, go take pictures, go take pictures.
Well, we all were, but I mean, I told Holly, I'm like, I totally go to your house, run outside with a shotgun just to look up there, just to protect myself. But I want to know what this creature is. I want to know.
I don't think a shotgun will protect you.
Well, whatever. It's true. It's pretty a mangy 8-foot bipedal werewolf dog walking around her yard. The fact that you don't have deer or large animals or any animals really roaming on your land, and you have an apple orchard for the picking, you know, you have a multitude of paranormal activity happening, as well as a type of cryptid or creature showing up. Now I'm gonna turn on the photos here, and hopefully you guys can see it okay.
Sam says that crystals are really good too for you, Holly.
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to getting those yet.
I just see. I don't know. I would get a shaman or something, because at this point where it's destroying crosses and whipping things around, I mean, you might have somebody who's a little bit more qualified just in case.
I think the first cross that I saw destroyed, I think that's when I would have called in the shaman.
But this first photo here is actually there's a couple of them that all he was doing was he was going outside to snap photos for us, and then he was going to re-upload them because we were on Skype at the time, and he was just snapping photos, and he was catching these mist things forming in front of him on a few of the photos, and it wasn't wasn't really snowing. It was barely snowing. You could see. I think you guys can see my. Can you see my mouse on the screen here? I think.
No.
No.
You can't. Oh, God.
No.
Well, I can see it.
The thing
there's
of
like
it is,
little snow thing here, but that you can see this mist forming in this photo here. That this is like one of. But if you look,
you can also see that
faces.
It's taking form.
Yeah, and there's like a few faces starting to form up in this thing.
There, now I see your mouse.
Okay,
Not to mention, there's something looking out the window there on the left.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a pointer. A pointer. I apologize. Not a mouse. But there was these things forming in front of him that he didn't even see, and he just kept snapping over and over again. And in this rapid recession of him snapping these photos, he was catching many things. Now,
because right now I can see 4 faces in that, but it looks like it's also taking the form of a huge animal to me.
Right. He went out there also to take photos of the footprints or whatever, but here is one photo of this bipedal creature was walking around her outside of her house, and it was if you look, I'm going to kind of zoom in the photo here, but it's got pads here, like dog pad, of how a dog pad fit would be, but this foot, it's got like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 claws, right? Would you say?
Well, I see 3. It looks like nails, but if you look at the back of it, the front of it looks like a paw print, but the back of it almost looks like a regular heel print. This is the inverted one, right?
Right. This is the inverted one to try to help it come out. But these are photos that he was sending. But this thing has an extremely large stride, larger than the guy that was staying there at the time. And he had, what did you say, Holly, his size foot was?
He had a size 12 shoe.
Right. But this thing, this is just inverted. I have a few other photos of it. But this is like, it's not a deer's, it's not a bunny track, whatever. This is ginormous, but you can kind of see there's like a couple, it looks like little claws coming out here, but you can kind of see like the pad of what a dog would be, but it had some weight to it because it sunk deeper in the snow.
Yeah, it does look canine.
Than what his foot did. I'm going to go ahead.
And you can't tell from this particular photograph, but this print was deep in the snow. Whatever this was had weight to it.
Right. Now,
yeah, you do have a photo of that though, where it has his foot and then.
Yeah, I'm getting to that, but then I'm trying to show, like, he's even here, you can, because the footprint keeps going off in this direction, but it's kind of cut off by his photo, but he's trying to show the depth, but you can even still see that there's little pads, like how dogs have a pad of the foot. But when you guys see the stride of this, there's not 4 feet walking, there's 2 feet walking, like it was human, it was bipedal when it was walking. But you can see that somewhat a little bit of the depth here of what he was trying to show. But here's his 12-foot shoe, and this thing, this is inverted photo too, but this thing was just as long, almost as long as his 12-foot shoe. But this
that
goes
picture's
down
not
deeper.
up yet.
Oh, sorry. It's up for me.
It's not up for us.
Well, you'll have to let me know when
There it
comes up.
is.
Okay, well, see, here's his 12-foot shoe, and this thing is just about as long, but it had more weight to the, if you guys, I wish we had that one photo of that me and you looked at, Holly, because remember you said we were kind of looking at the Bray Road website, and they had those pictures of the bipedal wolves or whatever,
Yes.
and the shape of their foot, and then how it's got that little heel coming up a little bit back. And if this sunk in, that'd be kind of like where the heel, top part of how the dog's thing would come down.
Yeah,
But it had a
it's
lot of
almost,
weight here, and then there was claws,
and
Yeah.
you can clearly tell that the guy's footprint beside it is not near as deep as this thing. And it looks like that the front of it is canine, but the back of it is almost human-like in the heel.
Yeah, it's such an odd shape of a foot.
Yeah, it
And,
is.
I mean, we have a lot more of these photos, whatever. But we're trying to get the best that we can to show on here, and we'll put it up in Spooky's Corner. So for those of you who are part of the group, you'll be able to see these photos better and really look at them. But here's one where it's not inverted, where hopefully maybe you guys can see it a little bit better. I'm gonna kind of zoom in, but let me know when the picture shows up, Spooky.
It's not up yet,
I know, just let me know when it kind of does.
but it's and I mean, and the guy's footprint is very, very clear.
Right, but
There you go.
his foot didn't go. Okay, now you see how right here you can see like how dog pads are, and then you can see like the nails, but it goes all the way out, and then there's like a little pad here too, and it's so weird. But when we show you guys where its stride is and how it's walking, we're coming up to that photo soon, and it's just 2 feet or 2, whatever you want to call these, walking across the yard, and he followed it, and he said it went into like towards the neighbor's house. So that would, and you're seeing this mangy dog outside your house a couple times a month that you catch it alone with your own eyesight. Who knows how many, it could be there nightly for all we know,
Yeah, I don't
That
I don't like to check, so
Yeah, I don't blame you.
that footprint seems to have like 3. You can clearly see the toenails or the claws.
Right.
Don't dogs have 4?
But see, there might be one right here. It's hard to tell because it is snow, but you can see that there's padded down.
Well,
how
some of
many
them have
pads.
that dew claw on the back of their foot, but I mean, I thought that dogs had like 4 toes.
Okay, I
I'll
don't
have to
know.
go, I'll have to go look at my
But
dog.
I don't know no bipedal mangy
Well, no, I
cross
don't
between
know
a
of any
bear and a wolf.
bipedal
8-foot
mangy
long,
shaped bear.
8-foot tall dog, so. I mean, when you, we'll ask Holly, go outside and ask him,
Yeah.
What?
There you go.
But
Make
you
sure
see
you
how,
ask. Next time you see it, Holly, make sure you ask.
Oh yeah, next time I see it, I'll walk up to it. I'm like, "Hey, can I ask you a few questions? There's these people that want to know a few things about you. Like, why do
Yes.
you exist?
okay, where do you learn from?
What are you called? Why are you
8
here?"
feet tall, and why do you look like a shaved bear? Is the next photo up?
Yeah.
Okay, you see how this is really deep here? And you can see the pads in this one a little bit better. It goes with the nails. But you can see the other part of the foot where the heel is a little higher than the pad of the foot. And you can see it's kind of marked in here where there's also another little pad right here.
Right.
And it matches up with that kind of photo of that werewolf type creature where it had that same type of foot style, I don't even know what you call it a foot. It's paw style,
Aw.
Yeah. It's just, you're seeing these footprints outside your house, as well as having creatures walk on your roof, peering through your
Skylight.
light. Yes, thank you. And as well as through the window. But here's, I'm going to put the next picture up where it's going to show you guys the stride of this creature, of the footprints that this man that used to be at our house took of. You guys just let me know when the picture comes up. Colleen. Spooky.
I have
It's-
to mute the mic for a bit.
Okay, Spooky, is the photo up?
Yeah, it's up now.
Okay, if you guys see, this is like extremely a long stride, and it's like something's walking bipedally. So it's just like one, it's not like a dog where you have 4 paws.
When my dog walks in the snow,
It don't walk
I
like
see
that.
at least, I mean, you
3.
know, the front the front paw and the back paw on one side might go in the same print, as it's walking, but there's 2 lines of prints there.
Right. And
This is one. This is bipedal. It's putting one foot in front of the other.
and it has extremely long stride at
Yes,
that.
it does.
And
You can't really tell that much from this particular photograph, but the photographs we've seen,
the other
those
ones, yeah.
strides are long.
So, yeah, because he had tried to copy the stride as well in one of the photos, and the fact that this has this bizarre dog type print, and it's got this stride as though it's a human, because deers, you see all their four legs practically, as well as dogs and other four-legged animals. They don't walk upright like this thing. It's very bizarre. And the fact that okay, if you guys see my pointer here, I'm going to go up between the O and the L. That's the window that it was peering in right here. And she's like 5'7", and you can just barely see the top of her head. So this thing had to be like 7 or 8 feet tall to be able to peer in and look at her while she was in the living room. And there's nothing here for it to really stand up on to look into.
I know there's nothing there. I mean, even with the drift, even if it stood on that small drift, it'd probably sink through. But I mean, that thing, I would say it's somewhere between 7.5 and 8 feet tall, whatever it is.
The thing is he actually went out at the time that this thing had just went by. And it could have still been out in the darkness when he was out there,
Yes, it could have.
Because he just went out to go have a smoke, and then he noticed these mists starting to form in front of his... Because the first picture he saw was the mist showing. He was just snapping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was just go, 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 right? Well, then he noticed these footprints. Then he noticed, the mists were... See, he didn't see the mist while he was outside, but as soon as he came in and he put the card into the computer and shared it with us, that's when he saw it, and then he didn't go back outside the rest of the night. But while he was out there, he had pointed the Skype camera out the window so we could kind of keep an eye on him, and we would kind of laugh and say, well, we can't really help you. We're only on the Skype call, so if something gets you, all we can do is, watch it happen.
I think it made him feel better because he was very uncomfortable there.
Right, but there was times, it wasn't just me, but Rich, one of our mods here, he was on the call, you were on the call, and
Yeah.
Phoenix, our friend who had passed, we were watching, and then there was actually a spirit that was following him around outside one time, and it looked like a construction guy. You could see his shirt, his pants, and like the tan type of boots that they would wear, but you didn't see his head. And this thing was following him wherever he was going, pacing back and forth. And then right when he tried to go into the garage door to open it, this thing ran up real fast to try to catch up to go inside with him, but the door shut and this thing didn't get to come inside. And all of us said, okay, we're not going to tell him that we all just saw that because we didn't want to freak him out. But he was experiencing all these things when he was there. And
Can you zoom in on this picture?
Sure. We're just on the footprints?
On the footprints, Greg? Greg was asking if we could zoom in.
There might be a measurement on the other. I'll have to go.
Yeah,
through
on the
different
footprints.
photos. I'll have to go through the different photos that he had shared or whatever, and find. There's a couple where he's kind of showing the stride and the distance or whatever. This isn't a really good one to get the print part at. So.
No, it's not really.
This one was mainly for us to show you kind of like the stride. But I'll have to look up and see if I can find if there's that one
because the stride of these prints actually look closer than they are.
Yeah, because he had walked, he pasted himself as well in one of the photos.
Even in this picture, though, that's quite a stride. And a couple people, that's probably was where the wind was. No, the wind was blowing.
Well, yeah, where it comes off or whatever. But some of these are older prints. This is just something that was fresh that he had spotted, and when he went up to go look at it, that's when he saw that they were these weird dog-like footprints.
And someone even mentioned that, usually like humans, they stagger a little bit, and even dogs, they might not run, but they said these prints are straight as an arrow. Whatever made the prints was going in a definite direction.
There's some other photos that he had shared, but we're saving it for when he comes on the show, when he gets his computer working or whatever. So we're going to have more photos that there's actually a creature in one of the windows that he has, but we're waiting because it's like his story to tell or whatever. But there were some of these photos that he had shared where you could see female apparitions in the window as well.
Right.
In one of these house windows. But when we were looking at this, I'd noticed that in this one part here, if you guys look, I'm going to kind of zoom up here, but there's this like this little light that's starting to cast right here, and I'm not sure where Holly is. Hopefully she'll come back soon.
I'm still here. It's just I just muted the mic a little bit because I had to call my dad to see what he wanted.
Oh, he's like, quit telling people our house is haunted.
No, he doesn't know that I'm on the show.
Okay, but right here, there was, I didn't notice this one, but it's the next photo after that I looked at this and then went back to this and I noticed, but you'll see like there's this light appearing right here, but there's no window here at all, right, Holly? There's no basement.
There's no window.
Nothing, right.
Nope.
So there's this light starting to appear here, and as we clicked over into the next photo, this orb came out of the basement, and it's like projecting its own light. And hopefully the picture will be up soon and you guys will see it.
It's not up yet. But we did notice that when we were looking at the prints, we happened to look over this way, and we both...
I did. And then Spooky's like, oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah, that's a light down there. And then this next picture here, you can clearly see the orb
coming out of the basement.
Coming out of the basement, and it's casting a light.
Yes. It started to cast the light and then it formed, but he was like snapping these pictures one right after the other. And I kind of cropped the photo to kind of zoom in more for you guys to see this, but usually me and Spooky don't like take too much stock on orb photos or whatever, but the fact
normally
that
I don't
is emitting its own light, we found it to be fascinating, and the fact that it came out of her basement.
And the fact that it was in the other photo,
and you can see,
is what caught our attention on this.
And you can see there's even light coming right here onto the wood,
right,
as well. So it's casting light up on this, I almost called it sand, snow.
And you can clearly see that door up there on that deck. There is no light up there. There's no light in this corner at all.
No.
Yeah, I've also seen that in person, too.
There's a little light. Oh, yes. She was talking about seeing these same lit up.
Lit up.
Orbs. I can't talk all of a sudden anymore. But I mean, there's a light right here, but that's from the flash of his camera, but it's hitting the window pane and a little bit of the edging of the window.
Right.
But this orb started to appear in the first photo.
And normally I do,
light and then it showed up.
Normally I do not put any stock at all in orbs because I have seen very few of them that I felt were either some sort of spirit or some sort of energy, because most of the orbs I see are either like reflections, maybe off of rain or snow or something, or they're dust particles. This is, I'm convinced that this, whatever this thing is, it did come out of the basement, and it is some sort of spirit. It's casting its own light, and because like I said, and except for the flash reflection from his camera, there is no light back here.
Right, and I have the full Photoshop photo of it too, and it doesn't show up anywhere else but right here. But it started to appear on the first photo that he first took, and then the second photo he got, that's when this thing came out. And I thought, I wish he had taken 3 or 4 more, because we may have seen where this went. To me that would have been extremely more interesting. Because there's other photos. When we look at the other photos, you can see what's a snowflake, or snow or whatever, but this definitely is different because it's emitting its own light. What it is, we don't know. Is it just a little ball of energy? Maybe. It's just one of those photos that we thought it was strange that was going on with the rest of things that was going on in your house, because you had said you had woken up before where you felt like something was sitting on your chest, Holly.
Yeah, it wasn't just a cat, because cats sit on me all the time, but it felt like a human being kind of weight on my chest, and I couldn't get up. Then all of a sudden, when I tried to move my head, because I wanted to wake up, because I thought I was dreaming, and then I went and I saw the orb right in front of my face, and then it went up and off to the left and left my bedroom.
And then you felt that pressure off of your chest was gone?
Yes. Yes.
Did it kind of resemble like a light like this as well?
It looked just like that, except it was really bright white light.
Yeah. Well, this is pretty bright if it's casting light onto a snow and the wood piece as well. But I found it fascinating because he caught it when it was starting to light up this thing. Because if you look, here's like the larger photo of it. There's no, you would see the snow, and the snow is barely even visible. you know, in this next photo where I hit back, and you can see that it's starting to appear. And then when you go into the next photo that he snapped, that you definitely got that round circular.
I don't think he realized he even captured that because there was nothing really said about an orb because we were looking at something else
Well, we were more
in the other picture at the time.
Yes.
And
we were more into that creature thing that he had taken
right,
that
right.
captured in the garage window that was sitting on the wood pile, you know. So, and that thing, that photo, I mean, when he comes on or whatever, and when we do share that photo, you'll see this creature in the window, and then he takes another picture after it's gone, and you can see the tree behind it. But when this thing was in the window, you couldn't see the tree, so it was blocking this tree up. But this thing looks like a creepy swear word alien. I mean, I don't know.
Creepy swear word alien.
Yeah. Build in your own swear word. We don't swear here, or try not to. So, but, Holly, do you remember how long the stride was? Did Dana, or you know?
Yeah. Did anybody actually measure the stride?
I know he did with his legs, trying to walk the distance
I know.
of it, but I forgot what he said how long the stride was.
We didn't measure the stride, but I think if you go by that picture where it shows his foot compared to the
let me guess.
print,
Find it.
you could probably figure out how long the stride is.
Well, even from this picture, you know, it looks like a very
It looks like a really long
stride for a human.
And this is a very long house. I know you can't really tell in the picture, but this is a very long house.
That's one jacked up human footprint, Vicky. I mean, it's got a dog pad, fingernail type.
Well, it looks like to me, if you notice, the heel isn't as deep as the rest of the foot. Yeah. And it's kind of like, and somebody in chat mentioned this before, that it looks like whatever it is kind of walking on its tiptoes.
But if you, but if you look at how dogs' feet are, and then some of them got that little pad part that's a little higher up towards the, I don't know what you call it. But also when, you know, I said, well, we were kind of looking at different photos or whatever, and if you guys go look at, you know, BreaRoad.com or whatever it was, and I think she was the first drawing that was on there of like a whole bunch of werewolves standing up next to a mountain, you know.
Well, I'm curious.
This thing that appeared in the window looked like that.
It looked just like it, except it had the stripe, and it looked a little more mangy looking, like it was malnourished or something.
Or had mange.
Yeah, or had
a mangy werewolf.
A mangy werewolf.
Yeah.
No wonder he's out there in an orchard. I'm curious though, when is the last time that you know for sure this thing was around?
A couple days ago.
Couple days ago.
Yeah. Probably like just after we talked.
Oh my. Now, your friend that lived there, he said that he followed these tracks once and they went to a neighbor's house.
Yes.
He said it went almost like it went to the door, you know, but he said I quit following it after that point. And I know that there's a lot of Native American tribes and whatnot it's in your area and
yes, a lot
state
of them.
that you live in or whatever. But the fact that large animals like deer and all these other things, even smaller animals, they're all over the place on all the other neighbors' land, but they're not on
they're not on yours.
And you have an apple orchard and, you know, plethora of good stuff that they can feed on. And this thing is jumping on your roof, and you said there's no way for it to get on your roof because there's really nothing for it to climb up to jump on. So this thing has to have an amazing...
Have you ever been brave enough to walk around? How many acres are we talking about?
Our house sits on a little over an acre, and then there's a little plot of land behind us that's actually the neighbors, but everyone thinks it is ours, but that's about like another half acre.
Well, have you ever walked around on the property to see if maybe you can find a den or something?
She won't even go out when it's on her roof. You think she's going to go look for a den?
I'm talking about in the daytime. When the weather's nice. I'm not talking about going out in the winter at night. Like I probably wouldn't come out of the house either if I knew it was on my roof. But I mean, during the summer or, you know, whatever, when it's nice and warm, during the daytime, have you gotten out and walked the property to see if you can see anything?
We have rabbit and foxholes and holes from woodchucks, but that's about it.
You know, somebody had mentioned something in chat. And it also reminded me of something that you said before. This person, KGB, said, we know where it goes, but where does it come from? And that
Right.
reminded me of a time where you said you've also found tracks in the snow where it just appeared out of nowhere and
Yeah,
then disappeared.
they were
out of-
human footprints though.
Right. I know, but can you tell that story as well?
Oh, I was just, I don't know, minding my own business, doing work outside like I always do. And I saw some footprints in the snow, and I'm like, I thought that was odd because hardly anyone comes over here. So I thought I'd follow them. And they just showed up smack dab in the middle of nowhere, and then I followed them, and they disappeared in the middle of nowhere.
So it's almost like
So these were human prints.
Yeah,
Like
they were
shoe
human
prints.
shoe prints.
Wow.
but nobody's
But they-
shoes matched their shoes there.
Yeah, it was none of our shoes.
And they just appeared out of nowhere, like they just dropped out of the sky and landed in one spot, started walking, and then all of a sudden disappeared. Like they went through.
Yes.
And I'm just saying this, not because I'm saying it's true or whatever, just as an example. Like if somebody could say, okay, they were dimension jumping. You know what I mean? They came
Yeah.
through one door and then went through another thing. You know, so dimension travelers, whatever they call it.
Dimension jumpers.
Yeah, whatever they call it.
Interdimensional beings.
Yeah, there's
There you go.
different,
There you
know, these creatures that they talk about them in all these different states, and especially in the state that you live in, there's tons of them seen by hundreds, if not thousands, of people that me and Spooky had read up on and stuff. But the fact that you're seeing the exact same similar thing that they've seen, a 8 foot, 7 foot tall bipedal mangy dog. And I'm going to quickly go back to the photo where the house is just to show. I mean, the only thing that you could possibly say for it to get on your roof is if it stepped on this, that decking that you had and maybe leaped up from there. But other than that, you said there's really no way to access your roof.
Yeah, we have to actually get out the ladder and physically set it up and lean it against the roof to get up there.
So this thing has to have an amazing leap, you know, to leap up there, because you haven't seen any scratching, markings, or damage on the outside of your house where you see it clawing its way up to get on the roof, you know, several times a month to peer down at you guys.
Yeah, not that I've seen.
Does it matter what time of year this thing gets on your roof or appears at your house?
Nope.
It just happens all
This
the
is
time.
a
seen-
year-round occurrence.
Yeah, I have not seen any pattern whatsoever.
That's why I asked you to pay attention, like, this first week of February to see if it goes with, like, moon phases or anything, you know? I'm
I
curious
don't know.
because
I still think it's random, but
it could be. I'm just throwing things out there just out of curiosity. If I was closer, I'd be like, I'm coming out every day, you know? I'll sit outside,
Yeah.
don't worry about me unless I'm eating up or something.
I
But,
don't think it's you that's outside.
well, I wouldn't be climbing your roof, you know?
I know.
I would be to put a camera up there. I mean, if any of Holly's friends have a trail cam or a good cam that she could stick up on a roof or outside of her house to keep it, you know,
Right.
recording out there, maybe she could capture this creature on camera. That'd be awesome. That's
That would
Assuming
be
the camera
awesome.
doesn't get stolen.
well, just chain it down to something, you know. But the fact that you're seeing this thing, your cats are seeing it. Other people who've stayed in your house have seen this creature peering in at them.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and then
Phoenix Dow made a good point. You're, in my opinion, and in his, you're very brave for even staying there. And he made the statement. He says, "I don't know how you have the courage to walk to your car at night. I don't either."
yeah,
It's
there's-
not really a bravery thing. You're just used to it.
How do you get used to?
Yeah, I
guess
know. How
it'd
do
be-
you get used to something like
But
that?
maybe it's the same thing as living somewhere where there's a lot of wilderness, where you have wolf packs and you have bears and you have cougars and all that creepy stuff. It's not really creepy, but animals that could kill you out there. So you kind of like, okay, just be observant when you're out and about. But you've said that you've been outside before coming to and from the house, where you've said that you've heard rustling back by some of the buildings.
Yes.
Where you felt like this thing was watching you at times when you were going back and forth from your place, leaving and coming to.
Yeah,
And the
like
fact that this thing's on your roof, you know, and leaving by these bipedal strides of, it looks like to me it looks like a dog print, you know, a big
Or-
dog foot.
yeah,
Anyway.
like a dog-like print.
Right, and that dude's foot was like 12 feet or whatever you said, 12.
A
Size
size 12.
Yeah, I can't even.
I really
think-
hope his foot is
Which
not
is about
12
maybe
feet.
No,
what?
no,
You
but
got
you
a
know what I
foot-
meant. You know what I meant.
Yes.
I'm like thinking of so many things at once, you know, and I'm just trying to formulate this all in my mind because it's just mind-boggling that you're seeing this and this is occurring not just once, but,
multiple times
weekly,
year round.
yearly,
Yeah, you might as well say weekly. Just
Weekly.
about.
I've had people say they really wanted to come over here and, expect something to happen, but that's just not the way it works. You have
No,
to be
it
here
doesn't.
quite a while before you even notice anything.
Well, yeah.
I know.
Sometimes first time you're here, you notice something right away, but it's not, I can't go and say, hey, can you come out and show me something? It doesn't work that way.
Ghosties don't appear on cue.
Yes. They're not
And
here to please you.
that's right. They're not around to please you. They're not around to play games with you. Actually, in my opinion, they're fickle. If they want to show themselves, then they're going to show themselves, but they are not going to perform for you on demand.
I have like a request or whatever. I know that you guys have cameras and whatnot or whatever, but maybe when it kind of warms up, maybe you could set out one of your IR cameras outside up on the decking or stairs, whatever you have right there. I'm not sure how large that is, but and if you're afraid, just kind of chain it to the wood or whatever. But why not try running it a few times during the spring or summer when it's a little bit warmer, and
I could
see
do
if you
that.
might capture something? Because I just want to go there, to be honest with you.
I would like to go there too. I really would.
EVP stuff, and because you have a ton of paranormal stuff happening where it's not just you seeing it; it's other people in the house as well as your friends and people that come and stay there. From things flying, the pets see it. You have this bipedal, 7 to 8 foot, mangy werewolf, bear, shaved bear-looking creature with yellow, orange, glowing eyes. And it's always showing up. You don't have animals that go on this large land that you have apples and apple trees for it to eat. There's just so many things that it's bizarre.
Yeah, I'm just used to bizarre, I guess. So
I guess you are.
And you guys hear voices, and there's nobody
yes,
there, and there's tons and tons of things that are going on. So I mean, if you guys can set up cameras and get stuff or whatever, we'd love for you to come back on and share your continuous story of these fun, bizarre paranormal, and I don't even know what that other thing is.
I don't know either.
I'd be like, I'll pay you $100, okay, if you just stand at the window and take a picture of it. I mean, you don't have to go outside.
Can I have that up front?
No.
There you go.
No. Aw.
No. Well,
It'll make the nervousness go down a little bit if I had the 100 in my hand.
I'll give you
Yeah.
100 in Monopoly money. Even I don't have.
Oh, come on.
You'll just invite us all over. We'll come and help investigate with you.
I'll go
Okay.
up there and do it for free. I don't care.
Yeah.
Let's have a group meeting. Come up here. Have all our cameras ready.
Barbecue, and then
Yeah,
all
that
sit
sounds
out
good
at
to me.
night. I don't, and just wait for this bipedal creature to come out. So.
We have a grill. Maybe it'll want a burger.
Yeah, maybe. Or a hot dog.
Hey, it's got to get hungry sometime.
Yeah, it's got to.
Well, I just want to say thanks, Holly, for popping on and sharing part of
Yes.
your story. I know there's a whole lot more that you could be
Yes.
telling, but we only have.
I
an
know.
hour.
The hour just wasn't enough. But thank you, Holly, for coming in here or calling in here and talking to us for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
But we totally, if you get more stuff or whatever, we'd love to have you come on again and share more of the stuff or more of your
Right.
stories when we have a
Sure
paranormal
would.
talk now. Because we have a once a month show that's just dedicated to, talking about paranormal. And we invite you, our listeners, if you guys want to call in and share your own EVPs, photos, videos, or stories as well. I mean, we invite everybody just to come and share. It's like an open thing for all of us. We're not here to judge or anything else. It's just
We just
for all
want
of
to
us
hear
come
your
back
stories.
together. Or to come together and help each other out, to understanding these things. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Holly, for coming and for sharing your stories with us. And I want to thank our mods, Richard and Penny, and everyone who came in to listen to us. I want to thank Raven for a good show. Join us next week when our topic will be Abandoned America. Love Canal near Niagara Falls, Times Beach, Missouri, Treese, Kansas, Brio, Texas. And share us on Facebook and any other social media you happen to be a member of.
Yep, and share us with friends. Night, everyone.
And share us with friends. And good night, everybody. And thank you for coming and listening.
Thank you.